Okay, so this is our Sound of Thunder lesson. This is our recap. This is after all of us, for the most part, read the text. Doris, I recognize that you haven't read the text yet. I know you were just finishing it up. But Malachi, Tariq, and Brett, we read the text in its entirety. So you guys know who to lean on. First thing I want to show you guys is our lesson essential question for the day. Remember, our key concept for this lesson is foreshadowing. What's foreshadowing, Tariq? What do you think foreshadowing is in your own words?
And like when somebody tells something.
Yeah, and it gives the reader what? What's a good word for foreshadowing? It gives the reader what, Malachi? Think Sherlock Holmes.
Like an impression.
An impression of what is going to happen. It gives you clues. You with us, Brett? With us on that? Alright, so our lesson essential question, what you should be able to answer by the end, what I expect you to answer, is how does foreshadowing in Sound of Thunder, the story that we read, create a suspenseful mood throughout the story? And if you want to know a little bit more about the word suspenseful, I wrote it down in the slideshow. So we'll cover what suspenseful means. But if you had to put it in your own words, Tyler, what do you think suspenseful means? What is, okay, so suspense. If you're watching a mystery film, why do you want to watch it? To find out what happened. And suspense is that tension, that anxiety, that curiosity that drives a reader through a story, okay? So now that we covered those two terms, we're ready to get started. First thing I want you to do, we had two motifs in this story that we read. Dinosaurs, and what was the other big one? Brett. Not guns. What was the other machine they had? Time machine, time travel. So we're going to watch these two clips and then we're going to talk about them for a short period of time, figure out how they relate to our story. Alright? First one, you may recognize it, just came out over the summer. I don't know about the sound for this. Sounds coming from the computer itself, so you guys are going to have to. Did you just plug your computer in? Alright. It's about to die. Maybe we can move the power stuff. My computer wasn't working on the internet, so let's just do this. Alright, you got it? How many of you saw this movie this summer?
I was gonna say.
You seen it in school? Okay. This part is pretty intense. Jurassic World. Oh! That was my favorite part of the movie. Not a lot of words in this, but take a look at what's happening. Yep. First genetically modified hybrid. It was a worker helmet.
Anything that moves.
Okay, so that was the trailer for Jurassic World, which came out this summer. I want you to, as we watch the next video clip, think about why I might be showing you the trailer of Jurassic Park at the beginning of an English lesson, right? So we're going to talk about why, and I think you already saw, I saw those wheels turn, Tariq, very good job. We're going to play the next clip, which is, if you hit escape and go to sound of the Gmail, Yep. It should be the second one. Yep. This one is another one of my favorite films. Also Steven Spielberg. He's getting a lot of love during this English lesson. Right there, that one. That movie. And I think the Lego Jurassic World might be playing for whatever reason. If you guys feel like moving up to here, you can.
All we need is a little Plutonium. I'm sure that in 1985, plutonium was available in every corner of the store. In 1955, it was a little hard to come by. Marty, I'm sorry, but I'm afraid you're stuck here. Stuck here? I get stuck here. I got a life. Being 1985. I got a girl. Is she pretty? She's beautiful. She's crazy about me. Dennis, look what you wrote here, Doc. That says it all. Doc, my only hope. Marty, I'm sorry, but the only power source capable of generating 1.21 gigawatts of electricity is a bolt of lightning. You say? A bolt of lightning. Fortunately, you never know when or where it's ever going to strike. We do now. This is it. This is the answer. It says here that a bolt of lightning is going to strike the clock tower precisely 10:04 p.m. next Saturday night. If we could somehow harness this lightning, channel it.
Make sure you guys are focusing on the stuff.
Just my luck. Next Saturday night, we're sending you back.
There's the important part right here.
Alright, Saturday's good. Saturday's good. I can spend a week in 1955 and hang out. You can show me around. Marty, listen, you're on the question. You must not leave this house. You must not see anybody or talk to anybody. Anything you do could have serious repercussions on future events. Do you understand?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Marty, you interact with anybody else today besides me?
Yeah, well, I might have sort of bumped into my parents.
Sound familiar?
Great Scott! Let me see that photograph again of your brother. Just as I thought. This proves my theory. Look at your brother.
His head's gone. It's like he's been erased.
Erase from existence.
Alright, so I'm going to ask you guys some questions about why I'm showing movies to begin an English lesson. First question I'm going to ask you, and you raise your hand to let me know that you want to answer. What do the genres, or same genre, of the two clips that I showed have to do with the story we read? What's up?
Well, in Digest, it was how they was making like dinosaurs and all that, and interacting with dinosaurs. And Back to the Future was about time traveling and interacting with other people to cause things that was happening in the past, that could happen in the past.
Okay, excellent. And those are two parallels, but specifically I was going for genre, and maybe you can give it to us now, because you gave it to us when we were talking about class. What genre does Ray Bradbury, the writer of Sound of Thunder, write in that is comparable to science fiction? But those were great details as well. You almost got into where I was going next with my questioning. So the next question I wanted to ask you was, what does this indicate? What does the fact that we're watching a film made in 1985 and a film that was made just last year about the same stuff indicate when we're reading a book in literature that was written in 1952? What does it mean about those themes and motifs of time travel and dinosaurs?
They've been around for a while.
They've been around for a while and they're still kicking, right? They're still kicking and they're important to us and we care about them. That's why we can relate to those films the same way we can relate to the piece of literature. Show of hands for those of you guys who read. Who liked Sound of Thunder? Tariq, Brett, Malachi. Tyler, did you enjoy what you read so far of Sound of Thunder? It's alright? Okay. And Doris, I know you haven't really read any of it so far yet, so we'll find questions that you can answer. And you already told me, Tariq, the thematic parallel, right? The dinosaurs and the time traveling. What was the specific part that what is an even better way to put it? What is the theme of those two movies? What happens when mankind messes with time?
It can mess with the future.
It can mess with the future.
Change everything.
It can change everything. Some negative occurrence happens, right? So whether it's genetically modifying dinosaurs or hanging out in 1955 and interacting with people just minimally, you can change the future. All right? So that's why I showed you those two clips. And based on what you saw, if you haven't seen Back to the Future, so that excludes you, Malachi. Brett, maybe you can answer this one. What do you think happens based on Marty deciding to interact with people in the year 1955?
That can change everything.
It changes everything. What foreshadowing device do they use at the end of that scene? The clock tower, so we know that something's going to happen with the clock tower. And what else did they show at the end of the scene? Think about the photograph. Huh?
His head's missing.
Yeah, his brother's head starts to disappear because of how he's interacting in the past. Cool, cool, cool. Alright, so the next thing that we're going to do is I want all of you guys to come to the center table real fast. You'll need a space to write, so make sure you're spread out appropriately. This is where you're going to use your blank sheet of scrap paper. You're going to include it in your binder after this. We're turning to page, and I would like the teacher's one. There it is. We're turning to page. It's at the end of the story we read, Sound of Thunder. 50-something says Tariq, thank you.
The book started at, we stopped at 44, I think.
Yeah, I am on page 49. Absolutely perfect. Good job, Tariq. Thank you. So you're going to want a place to sit as well, Brett? Did you find one of those?
Yeah,
Okay. So we're going to kind of share the spotlight on this one. I'm going to be looking for answers from everybody, and I'm going to kind of pinpoint what you might know. Tyler is somebody who only read 3/4 of the story. The three of you who read the whole story. And Doris, you who are just hearing bits and pieces of it, right? Okay. So we're all going to record our answers on our sheets. These are called after reading questions. So if you could go ahead and put after reading on the top of your paper. For the sake of time, we also might stick around.
What do you look for? Paper?
After reading questions. Right? Because after we read the story, so after reading.
I know, I need to get more.
Doris, if you give me your ears, I'll do my quickest, best version recap of the story in less than a minute, okay? So there's this guy, Eccles. He's rich and he's kind of cocky. He decides he wants to go, this is set in the future, he decides he wants to go on a time safari to hunt the world's biggest beast that ever lived, which is a Tyrannosaurus Rex, right? So he's paying lots of money, he's bragging about it the whole time. He starts to get worried when they get there. The one warning that he's given as they travel through time is that he can't step off the path because anything he touches or interacts with besides the dinosaur might cause consequences in the future, unforeseeable consequences. The reason that they can kill the dinosaur is because the dinosaur, they went back in time and marked it because it was going to die seconds from then anyway, so they don't they don't cause any rift in time. When he sees the dinosaur, all of that cockiness goes out the window. He steps off the path, right? When he returns to the future, I'm going to leave that part kind of ambiguous so that these guys can fill in those details. When he returns to the future, let's just say that nothing is the same. So, I'm going to ask you the first question. You don't have to recall too far back. What does Eccles do in the past that has far-reaching consequences? He steps off the path, and somebody who was here for the whole story, can you add to that? What does he step on?
A butterfly.
He steps off the path and onto a butterfly.
It when he returns.
And he only realizes it when he returns, which is an additional detail. But you guys can go ahead and write that down for number one. This is the after reading questions on page 49.
So we can just
Right.
step off the path.
Or 48, sorry. Step off the path onto a butterfly. These questions that are basic recall and summary, these should be like shake and bake. We're doing real fast. I want to focus on our foreshadowing activity after this. So, raise your hand if you would like to tackle this one. Maybe this one would be a good one for you, Tyler. Well, no, actually no, because you weren't here. When Eccles returns from the world of dinosaurs, what is different about the present?
Somebody different was the election.
The election. Can you put that into a complete sentence, Brett? Take that idea. What was different about the election?
When you step off the path and kill the butterfly, the
Mm-hmm.
election was changed, and instead of the guy who was originally going to win, the other guy won.
Okay.
Changed the English language to
Oh, also it changed the English language. So we got two things that we could write down. We got to change the results of the election. Results of election. And it also altered the English language. English with a capital E. Okay. Did you get to the end of the story, Tyler? Right here at the K. So read that last paragraph real fast. And I want you to answer the next question for me. What is the sound of thunder at the end of the story? Yes. But
That's fine, no.
or that is all bad. I would try, that's why I do we're down the road for someone, because none of these
It
were,
wasn't printing.
none of these access the internet, now just grab your computer and print from it.
I brought it up as soon as it finally came out.
Malachi's giving you a clue, it's bang, bang. When you're ready, you just go ahead and deliver the answer. What is the sound of thunder? What do you think it is? Based on what I've told you so far. Take a guess. You don't know?
Read the very last paragraph.
said
The very last paragraph. If you flip that page over, are you ready, Tyler? Travis.
You got the right.
Travis got the right, but you can say it's in the text. You can say it. Don't feel like you're being inappropriate, like in the textual detail. And he shot Eccles, the guy who stepped off the path. So for number 3, the sound of thunder is
Travis.
yeah. Eccles being executed. The rifle shot at Eccles. Travis killing Eccles. Any of those would work. Okay. Doris, this is a good one for you, seeing as you haven't read it. Try and get you involved here. How would you characterize the business practices of Time Safari Inc.? So remember, there's this rich guy who rolls up, waving his money around, saying, I'd like to go back in time and shoot dinosaurs. And through the business practices of the company, Time Safari, he's allowed to. What would you say about, what could you infer about those business practices, just from what you've heard so far? I'll give you one more hint before I say it again. What warning does Eccles get from my guys who read the whole story? What warning does Eccles get about the fate of a couple individuals?
Travis and the other actor not so up with that.
Mm-hmm. And what happened to some other visitors of the Time Safari? Does anybody remember this detail? It was kind of buried in the text.
I think they stayed on the path.
Mm-hmm. Huh? What'd you say, Malachi? Yeah, several people had already died. And yet they still have this company running to take people back in time to dinosaurs. So what could you infer about the practices? Are they good practices? bad, he said unethical. Do you know what unethical means? No? Do you want to put it in your own words? What do you think about that type of business?
I mean, it's good and it's bad. I mean, but if they told him before he went, then it's kind of like it's your own choice. Like,
Yeah.
You did it, like,
Mm-hmm.
you did it yourself.
Yeah, and he's kind of responsible. He's the guy who steps off the path. He can't keep it together. Okay, so what you want to write for number 4 is anything that you want to say about the practices of time safari. So, they were bad. Unethical is a really good word. Unethical is a really great word that Malachi threw out there. It means that they don't take responsibility for the consequences, which is kind of unethical. They deliberately don't worry about doing the right thing. Because they're getting paid. As long as they get paid, who cares? Even there's one point in the story, Brett, where he says, we're going to lose insurance money over this. He's not worried about Eccles being in shock, or even what could have happened to the world. He's worried about the bottom line. Okay, we're going to skip down to number 7, all right? And we're going to jigsaw this. So
7, not to go 5 and 6.
we're skipping 5 and 6. We're going to jigsaw this, and then we're going to do a slideshow. Here's what I mean by jigsaw. I want, Drew, can you swap with Brett real fast? For number 7, you're going to make 2 columns. One's going to be called foreshadowing, the other one's going to be called outcomes. Okay? So 2 columns like this. Even if you shorthanded FS and OC, foreshadowing and outcome. Here's what I mean by jigsaw. Tariq, I'm going to treat you like an expert, because you've proven to be. You are going to work with Tyler and Doris to go find a piece of text that foreshadows a specific outcome. Malachi and Brett, likewise, you guys are going to go find a piece of text that foreshadows a specific outcome. And then we're going to share out together, and you guys are going to record both. Okay?
We're making a chart.
So yeah, you're making that chart like the one on the board. You can write FS and OC on one side. So I like the conversation going on here already. Hopefully we don't come up with the same one. So you want to flip through your text, Tyler. Was there a part where the author wrote something that let you know that something else was going to happen? Foreshadowing.
So you basically like,
What big clue did the author drop, and what ended up happening?
Enough people dying.
Okay, but what clue gave you that? And that's why. Okay, so that's a great one. Told him not to step off the path is the foreshadowing. What does that let us know? What was the eventual outcome that we had to look out for? Tyler, how about? Huh?
You told that about something?
Yeah. The safari people told him not to step off the path. And you know from our recap, Doris, so she could fill in, what did that foreshadow?
I'm not stepping off the path.
Well, if the warning was don't step off the path, what were we thinking the moment that we read that line?
He was gonna do it.
That somebody was going to step off the path.
So that's the outcome.
Mm-hmm. What did you guys come up with over here? Okay, well that was kind of visual image in the text. That's just thinking outside the box a little bit. But we do want to focus on what's in the text itself. So see if you can't come up with one more foreshadowing. Huh? Yeah, red paint, foreshadowing death. Foreshadowing by symbolism. And we're going to talk about different types of foreshadowing. That's excellent, Brett. That's really one that's underneath the surface, kind of nuanced, if you will.
And another one that,
Vocabulary word.
that he knew that if he would step off the path, that it was going to change the future.
Mm-hmm. I think the part where, so there's a whole part of the text where he says, he makes the analogy about if you step on a mouse right?
Yeah,
It kills the fox, it kills the lion, it sounds like that weird nursery rhyme.
yeah.
And then we know that he's going to do something that changes the future, right? So the warning about changing the future is the foreshadowing, and the result is we know that something's going to affect the future.
So it's like when you step on the mouse, like the stuff that lives off the mouse will die.
Exactly, right? So it starts to, what do we call that?
Predator and prey.
Predator and prey, but when there's a bunch of responses that are linked together. A cycle, kinda, I was thinking chain reaction, right? Chain reaction. Alright, so that's where we're gonna leave the after reading questions. I need everybody to be able to see the board, and I need everybody to have 2 of these guys.
I don't know where to put this because I don't know where to
That's okay, we'll hook you up with a binder in a second. So everybody, yep, you're done with that for right now. It will eventually go in the binder. Everybody needs 2 of these graphic organizers.
So we still need the books, right?
Huh?
We still need the
You
books.
don't need the books. You're going to need your eyes, your ears, and your brains, and they need to all be directed toward the smart board.
My name on both of these?
You can put your name on both of those. That'd be a good start. Wow, it's almost like it knew. Alright, so some of you guys will need to pivot so that you can see the board and all that good stuff. We talked about foreshadowing in general, right? Generally, foreshadowing is what, Doris?
I don't know, looking over text.
Well, looking over a text, we look for, that's one of the things we look for. Brett, what's foreshadowing?
Small detail in the text could show that something's gonna happen later in the text.
Something big that's going to happen. Good. Excellent. And it causes suspense for us, right? We get little clues in the text. That was a great answer, Brett. You're on fire. And it lets us know what's going to happen. Dorit, could you pivot this way just so you can see? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to introduce you to various forms of foreshadowing, specific forms of foreshadowing. Okay? And you guys are going to, on the side, don't worry about the page of the clue. You're just going to write 1, 2, 3, all the way through 9. I'm going to show you 9 of them. I'm going to show you them, I'm going to give you examples, and then I might ask you a question about them, about how they work. Envisioning all the way that an author could create suspense with foreshadowing. Okay? On the left side of the chart, you're going to write pre-scene. Well, you're going to write whatever the title is and the small event, and on the middle of it, you're going to make a prediction based on the event. So for example, for the first one, this is called pre-scene foreshadowing. So you want to write on the left side pre-scene.
For the title?
Yep, for the title.
I thought it was not pretty.
And you also want to leave a little bit of room to describe from the quote. So after writing pre-scene, I'll read you the quote. It says, "We are in the cockpit of an airplane. The plane hits turbulence, and the captain struggles to regain control. It doesn't last long, and everything is soon seemingly fine again. ... So what's the event? Turbulence. So you would write turbulence.
Where?
Still on the left in the title. Yep. Still on the left in the title. If you guys need help spelling turbulence, I'll throw it up on the right.
Writing it in the title spot.
Yep. So you're writing, the left side is going to be the title there, pre-scene. It's the variety of foreshadowing. And then also on the left side, oh sorry, not on title, an event. I'm sorry about that. You asked me several times. I didn't know what you meant. Pre-scene goes in event. Yeah. Yep.
You said title got pushed off for the.
I know, that's alright, even if you rewrite it there, so pre-scene. And you also want to leave room to tell me what the event is. And the event was turbulence, and I was writing down turbulence up top left. Turbulence. Alright? I'm going to show you 5 of these. I'm not going to be able to show you all 9. I will show you all 9, but I won't elaborate on all 9. Okay? And then on the right side, you're going to answer this question. What do you think as a reader? You hear turbulence, but it goes away, ... What is your thought process if you see that in a movie or in a book?
There's more to come.
There's more to come. So
It's
that
not over.
it is not over. So you get how that's pre-seen. The foreshadowing is showing you a glimpse of something that's about to happen. It shows you right before the scene happens. So on the side where it says clue as to what would happen, you're right. There's more to come. Okay. Next one up. This one, you can write just approaching event, right? So that's part of the, what did we say, the event part of the thing. Approaching event. I'll read you the description and you'll tell me what's going on in the description. Yep, just going to go right down the list. So it's going to follow that same, yep, like with a comment in between. So this one says, Fred left the house at 11 o'clock and drove into town. He was meeting his father at for lunch at Brown's. Officially, they were just catching up, but they both knew Fred needed money again, and not such a small amount this time either. Okay? So what's the clue? What should we assume is going to happen?
Fred's going to ask for a large sum of money.
Fred's going to ask for a large sum of money. So that would go on the right side of your organizer. What do we notice about this variety? Is it subtle?
Fred was going to ask for a large
Sum of money, or Fred's going to ask for a lot of money. What do we notice about this variety? Could it be kind of disadvantageous as a writer because it's like right in your face, right? There's no nuance to it. It's not like your example, Brett, where you talked about the red symbolism of the marking going to show death, right? This one's called irrational concern. So on the left side, irrational concern. After this one, I'm going to show you the rest, and then I'm going to give you your exit ticket to complete for homework, okay? Because we're running short on time, unfortunately, with all the setup that went on. All right? So this one says, a teenage girl leaves the house for an evening out with her friends. Her mother makes her a promise to be back before midnight. The girl kisses her mother and tells her she worries too much. She'll be fine, she says. What do we assume is going to happen after we read that in a book? What? Something bad is going to happen to this girl going out. And that's on the basis of concern. In reality, parents worry about their children. In literature or in fiction, that worry almost demands that it gets proven. If a mom says they worry in a book, chances are that worry is going to be rightfully established. Alright, so you guys could sit on your hands for this last part, okay? I'm going to show you these, and then I'm going to make a statement about suspense that will help you write your exit ticket. Your exit ticket, I'll go over that momentarily. So this is foreshadowing through apprehension. In this example, a man's getting ready for work, his wife's watching him, he's wringing his hands, he's sweating, and then he leaves after giving her a sideways look. We can assume that the man is nervous, and the reaction that it gets us as a reader is that we're nervous as well, right? This one is called using a narrator statement. This one, again, is not that subtle. We'll just skip that one. Showing the reader a loaded gun or any type of weapon. Guy's opening a drawer. He pushes aside some documents. He sees a gun in the desk. What do we assume about that gun?
He wasn't used.
He's going to either kill somebody, himself. It's going to come out somewhere else in the story. If we see a weapon that gets shown briefly and put away, we know that it's going to come back. It's going to be used, right? Or at least our attention's being drawn to it for a reason. Foreshadowing through opinion. If you have a first-person narrator, I told myself there would be no more bodies, but I didn't believe a word of it. What did we assume from the opinion? That Yeah, that there's going to be more killing,
Yeah.
right? There's going to be more of that. So the character's opinion affects our opinion. This one's called foreshadowing through prophecy, and we just read a genre where there's a lot of prophecy. This one, when a fortune teller looks at a crystal ball, she closes her eyes and crosses herself. What do we assume?
She would think that.
Huh? Oh, well,
She's looking in the future.
and she sees something, if she starts crossing herself.
I see something bad.
See something bad, right? So if she sees something bad, we know that something likely is to happen bad, right? And we just read the Greek mythology genre where there's always, you've read, what Greek mythology have you read, Malachi? Huh? Phaethon, there were no prophecies in Phaethon. Anybody read Oedipus? Oedipus is the one where dude murders his dad, sleeps with his mom by accident? Well, if you haven't read that one, there's a prophecy in it. And it all gets prophesied and it all comes true. Sorry to ruin the story. Alright. This one's through symbolic omens, right? Symbolic omens. The curtains were pulled black and there was a lone crow or a lone magpie. And then it's a bad omen. Or like a black cat walks across somebody's path. That's a real generic one. Last thing I'm going to tell you before we get out of here. Sorry to rush through the last bit of the lesson. This is your definition of suspense. I will print it out for you so that you can use it on your exit ticket. Suspense is the intense feeling that an audience goes through while waiting for the outcome of certain events. So the exit ticket that you guys are going to respond to in a paragraph writing sample is how foreshadowing in Sound of Thunder causes suspense. You're going to want to give at least 2 examples. And since you already did number 7 in your notes, you should already have those 2 examples, right? How does foreshadowing in Sound of Thunder create suspense? You already have one? Oh, okay. I just like to do things twice for some reason. Is there any questions about the lesson today? No. No questions about the lesson? Was it neat to see the different ways that you as a writer or you as a reader should be looking for foreshadowing? See, it's not just one way of dropping the same clue or the same hint. There's all variety of ways. And do you think we answered this today? Or at least you'll show me in your exit ticket that you did. How does foreshadowing in Sound of Thunder create a suspenseful mood? Right?
I can do that right now.
You can do it when we're waiting to go to lunch, but I need to get people back into their classrooms, alright? So thank you guys very much for a wonderful lesson. I'll see you at lunch.